Why do I have you paint donuts?
But you want us to get fat.
I want you to get fat. No. No. Because see, there again too, when you think about you're salivating for a donut, you're thinking donuts. So when I tell my coaching students, because you know, you guys have me all the time, my coaching students, they're like, so what's next? And I go, donuts. And they go, donuts. Oh, I can't eat donuts. See, your prejudices come through. Oh, I hate donuts. And the first thing I'm surprised is how many people hate donuts. I'm like going, you hate it? Who hates donuts? I mean, the only thing I can grab a hold of, the reason why God exists is because donuts exist. If you get a good donut, it's like sitting at the feet of God. It's like, oh. But then I have a lot of people, they say they're allergic to, I mean, they don't want it because it gets them fat. It's, you know. So I say when you buy your donuts, when you go to Winchell's or wherever you go to buy your donuts, say, do you have a restroom? And they go, yes, right through that door. So you walk through the restroom, you open up your bag, you take your donuts out, and you place them nicely and evenly in the center of the restroom on the floor. And you wait 6 seconds. Remember, there's a 5-second rule on food, right? If it hits the ground, you have 5 seconds, so you wait 6 seconds. So you really make sure that any cooties that are out there are jumping on your donut. No, it's not. And then you put them in the bag again and you go home. And then as you go home, Mercedes had this little thing happen because all of a sudden she comes home and she's got the bag of donuts. And who do you think is following her? Her husband and a dog. It's like, they were, weren't they? Like, it's like, yeah.
Wouldn't leave the side of the bag.
Yeah, so you know, it's a good idea to bring 2 bags of donuts home, one for them. But the thing is, once you set it up, you say, don't touch those donuts. They were on the floor of the bathroom. It's like immediately, it's like, boom, you've got no problem. So anyway, but the thing is, when I tell students, the last thing I want to see is a donut painting. You know, I want to see a painting that has good composition, good light. Donuts are playful, so donuts will do. I tell you, the proof that there is a God is because there's donuts, because nobody can resist them. If you love donuts, you cannot resist. But my counter for that is that the reason why there's no God is because the pit of an avocado is too big. If there was a God, he would have designed the avocado with a smaller pit so you'd have more avocado, especially at $3 each. It lacks a little bit of creativity. You could have had a big bite on it, could have been sprinkled. I do like the orange plate. What I find is missing, though, is that there's no center focal point that I go, yes. You know, it's like...
It was supposed to be. It was the hole in the donut in the front was quite vibrant. You could see the plate behind it.
How do we get the light to bounce off of that?
Yeah.
The dark background.
We put dark in.
Yeah.
The darker your painting goes, the more light you can generate. If you do not put dark values in your painting, and then a really good painting is 90% shadows, 10% light. A great painting is 95% shadow. So if we would shadow this down, and this is really a small painting, but I'm going to try to, but if we shadow this down,
That's amazing. Yeah, that's certainly.
see, just purely the light hitting that, you know, and if you wanted the light to be on that donut hole, you would get the light on there, and the rest of the painting has to kind of disappear. So you can kind of play around with it, but you get the idea, and if we could get it even smaller. My barn doors are starting to get worn down here, but let's get them really as small as you can get. You can get foil, you can get really down to that point. You could get that light luscious in there. But the thing is, with the donut in shadow, the plate in shadow, you could see that now you're getting some contrast. So the only thing that's missing is shadow. And for the most part, most of everybody's paintings is that. You know, when we think about really great paintings, we think about Rembrandt.
Yeah.
It's everything's in shadow. But then we think about Vermeer, and you go, well, Vermeer's paintings are not dark like that. But if you really know what you're looking for, you'll see most of the painting, again, is in shadow. See, so art is communication. And if you have an idea, I should be able to read that idea. I shouldn't be reading into it. A lot of people go, well, it's self-expression. Whatever you get out of it is what I wanted you to get out of it. It's like, ah. It's like, no, really strong artists sit there and they go, that's what I want. And they work to get that. And so if that was your center focal point, I should say, I agree with you. When we don't, then you get this. Chaos. And then mutiny. And then nobody's painting lusciously anymore. Okay, so what's missing in this painting? Darks. Yeah, here again too much light on everything. So if those donuts are the center focal point, you set your still life up, because you have to choose that. Now I'm gonna actually do something where the effect of light is going to be a light coming through a pathway like a window.
Right.
Okay. We got the light kind of coming through here like it's coming through a window. Okay, so that's kind of how you would handle doing that. And you get a little bit more of that center focal point stuff. Which way is the light coming from?
From behind the red chips, between the chips and the drink.
Like behind here, for backlit, yeah.
Right.
I kind of see it. I don't want you to be you're like a big personality kind of person. Crank it up. Brighter light, darker shadows, more contrast. If this is the backlighting, this all should be in shadow. And the light should be creeping along the sides of that thing. You know, the lighting effect is everything. Most of the students who are doing this, they put their light on the whiskey glass. And so the light going through the glass is like that glowing amber color. It's like, oh yes. So I want you to work on that and get a little more light. Sunlight changes every 7 minutes. Every 7 minutes. So within an hour, chances are what you started off painting is no longer there. Just like with this painting, you had an idea, you took a picture, you went in and you got, oh, that's a horrible picture. So you have to fix it. Remember back in the olden days when we used to have Kodak? Oh my God, I mean, it's hard to even imagine that Kodak, those yellow boxes that we saw all over the parks 20 years ago, that company wouldn't be around anymore. I mean, isn't that like, yeah. It was like you couldn't take a picture without having to put money into Kodak's things. And you could take 36 portraits. And a lot of times you could take pictures of things and you go, oh, Harold, wait till you see the picture of the sunset I got. It was glorious. I've got to go down to Rite Aid and get my pictures. You can't wait to see it. And then you go down to Rite Aid, you pick it up, you open up that envelope, you're like, look, Harold, look at my pictures. Oh, it was actually really better than this, right? And how many of you actually remember back in the day when you used to take a picture of something and then you thought, oh, I need to make sure I get another one just to be sure. And you'll take 36 shots of practically the same thing. They all come out exactly alike. Remember those? I know. But the good thing with digital is that you can just go. It doesn't matter. But you know, back then it was $7 or $8 for the roll of film and $10 for developing, plus going back and forth to Rite Aid, you know. And then you always picked up a pack of gum and some other things, you know. So it was very expensive back then. But the thing is, both in the photographs, so the early painters had to rely on their memory because they knew that photographs were never good enough. And so a lot of times plein air painting was good because you could get those notes. But the reality is that the last page, the last chapter in Carlson's Guide to Landscape Painting is memorization. Memorization is the most important thing in being a plein air painter or in the still life painter alla prima. And that's remembering lights and shadows. Now we as painters, we can choose where we want the light at any moment. And what I'm teaching you to do, and what I teach in my coaching, is for you to say, where's your center focal point, by the way?
Well, it's going to be the bite in the donut, which I haven't got to look like.
Okay, but let's just take a look at that. So the thing is, your center focal point is going to be the brightest, lightest thing in the painting.
The donuts are too light.
Well, the thing is, yeah, but why did you paint them too light to begin with?
Well,
I know, but that's a waste of time. See, the thing is, if time is the biggest hurdle you have because light's changing, you don't have time to paint it and then paint it again and paint it again. The artists that I teach in watercolors, because I have a big portion of my students that are on my coaching program are watercolors, it's like to get them to loosen up so that they can get darks in pretty quickly, because you can't wait for it to dry all the time. You got to learn how to get those darks in. And so the lightest light should be put in, and then the shadows should go in. And even if it's too severe, at least you got a footnote in there. So when I look at it, I go, oh, I see the light, but I see the painting's not done. And then once you have that contrast, that light and that shadow in there, once you have that in there, then you can gauge the rest of the painting. But if you wait a while to put that in and you're mousing around with all this stuff in here, you don't really know where these contrasts have to be so that you can keep that.
Right.
And so you're starting to put this all too light. And then you're repainting it. And meanwhile, you've eaten your donuts. Yeah. So you know, you go in, you put in a footnote. This is my light, as bright and light as it can. And then you paint exactly what you see, and you gauge it. Now, if the light isn't cooperating with you, you need to figure out to get that effect. Once you get that effect, it's easy to get the rest of the painting. But if you're kind of uncommitted, especially with your center focal point, you're going to overwork everything and then have to repaint it all away anyway. So go with the central focal point, nail what it's supposed to look like here, and then make your judgment of everything else there. Got that?
Got that.
So the thing is, what I suggest is to get that and then get the painting in. And then start off with your center focal point and work out. If you dawdle and piddle and piddle and dawdle, all this stuff gets way too busy until you get here. And oftentimes when you get the center focal point in, you'd be surprised that all this stuff out here doesn't matter as much. So you have no right to put anything on unless it's duplicating what you see, but you didn't have your picture to speak of. So then you have to go into your mind. You have to use your artistic sense. See, I can't teach you to be an artist. I can teach you how to paint. I can teach you what being an artist looks like. But at some point, what happens in your head, the idea, you've got to go with that.
Back
and then
into that.
You got to go back into your concept, you know, so sometimes your picture isn't there. I would have rather seen the spoon leaning on the table, you know, up on the thing. Yeah, I don't necessarily like everything pointed to.
Okay.
You're right out.
Yeah, so. And even if you pointed it this way, at least we would have some eye magnet.
Yeah.
So even the other direction. So everything counts. But you got to know it. And in order to know it, you got to blow it. You got to blow it to know it, and then you got to paint it. I like that. You got to blow it to know it. You have to be free enough to blow it, so you know it. Know what to do.
And then show it.
And then show it. Know it, blow it, and then show it.
Don't show it.
Alrighty. Next week's homework assignment. What I would like to see you do is to set up a still life that has silk, cotton, velvet, you know, different materials, kind of wadded up, kind of, you know, somehow, you know, when you put silk and cotton and velvet together, you can tell it's silk, velvet, cotton. Especially when you get into like satin and silk, you know, the reflections of it. It's like, what I want you to do is I want you to come up with something that could be just a pretty little vase of some kind, simple, keep it simple, put in different kinds of fabrics, work different kinds of fabrics, and then try to create so that when I look at it and go, oh, that's velvet, that's linen. It's all about how different fabrics, and even if we went into black and white, the fabrics themselves drape a certain way. Silk drape's different than velvet. However, you're going to have to play with it, but I want you to take 3 separate fabrics. And I want to be able to tell in the painting that there are 3 separate fabrics. You need to kind of find out what it is that separates these 3 different fabrics that make them look like that. And then put them in a setting that's kind of a nice little still life. Now the key to this is don't make the rest of the still life really complicated. Just get a nice simple shaped vase with nothing in it. Just a beautiful glass bowl, a fish bowl, you know, so you kind of have something to work around. You know, so it kind of has something there. One of my coaching students, she's in Japan right now, and she really didn't like being in Japan. You know, her husband's there for work, and she's from Canada. And so she's over there, and I go, go paint this, go paint that. And so we decided we're going to paint cups, teacups. So she started looking for teacups, and then in the process you go down to in Japan they have like an antique flea market for Japanese stuff. And she started buying antique kimonos made out of silk. Beautiful stuff. And the thing is, you know, a lot of these kimonos have been through hell, you know, so she gets them really cheap, but there's sections of them that are really still clean and not torn or eaten or anything. And so she buys these old kimonos, and she has these beautiful drapes, and then she puts these cups in there, and the silk, and the quality of the silk of the kimono and all that, with these beautiful teacups, it is amazing. I am like a huge fan of her work. And, you know, not so when she started, but she started. So then she branched out and said, okay, we got teacups, we need some teapots. And Japanese teapots are a little different than that. So one thing leads to another. Now she's doing sake bottles. You know, now we got sake bottles and cups and certain kind of things. And then while she's down there, she's noticed these little figurines, because the year of the dog, the year of the pig, the year of the tiger, they have these beautiful porcelain figurines. So now she's starting to put those in there. And then she has these beautiful patterns of the kimonos and the silks and stuff. So your homework assignment is to try to put together some beautiful fabrics. Something that's kind of challenging, even with a pattern on it. And then make the viewer really think that they're looking at silk. If you've ever saw some of Sargent's paintings of the women in their clothing, and especially the one like at the De Young Museum, holy smokes. It's this woman reclining with a silk dress. And when you walk into this room, you go, oh my God, it's satin. It's like, have you seen it?
No, but I can imagine.
You just sit there and it's just like this beautiful satin dress. You go, oh, it's all beige. You know, it's like, oh, that's gorgeous. And you walk up to it and it looks like he was really pissed off. Like he just got a notice from the IRS that he's going to be audited. Because it's just this big wad of paint on this big brush. You can see the brush. And it's so thick, and he's got, there. And when you get into it, you've seen it. It doesn't look like that. It looks like one big angry brushstroke going across that dress. But the thing is, it's bent just perfect the way satin would. And the light is just where it needs to be. And it's just stunning. And you go, how does that happen? And you can see the brush strokes. It's glaring. It's like, whoa. But you stand back from the room and it's luscious. But the only way you can do that is to paint silk 100 times to finally get that, or satin, get that feeling of that. So that's your homework. If you like to take your painting to the next level, regardless at whatever level you are, please feel free to contact me at 415-606-9074. Join us on our website at www.thegrandview.org and get more information about our show. There you can download our free book, Everything You Need to Know About Outdoor Painting.